Hello, and welcome to the end of a month and the beginning of a new month, which means that it's time for another Manga Log. Yeah, July has ended. We are now into August. We are getting ever so close to the end of the year, but it happens. Still, we're not here talking about the future, though slightly so. July was pretty great for reading for me, as well as other things in life. Like, I got a raise. I'm happy about that. And with that raise, I am financially able to actually think about moving out of this one-bedroom apartment, that I can finally get maybe a two-bedroom apartment. But that is probably not going to happen anytime soon. At the very least, sometime next year. Hopefully. I am hoping. But you're not here to have me talk about my futures of plans. Yeah, that made more sense in my head. Anyways, you're here about me talking about what I was reading in July. That sentence made more sense in my head, but it is what it is. So, on to the numbers, and then we can get on to what I actually read. So, number-wise, I read 40 volumes of manga, 3 comics, and I finished 8. So, pretty good. I will say that for some strange reason, in my head, whenever I count, I don't separate the manga and the comics. So, technically 37 volumes of manga and 3 comics. But at the same time, the comics were just one-shots. So technically, in the finish, there is also going to be 5 manga and the 3 comics. So let us get on to the comics, because that is the shortest, and then we'll go to the finish, and then we'll go on to a new series that I started. So let's begin. Alright, on to the comics. There were 3 of them, and all of them are Critical Role comics. That's just how it is. So, this is going to be a pretty short segment, because there's not much to talk about. If you've seen me talk about any of the other Critical Role comics, then you'll know for the most part what I'm going to say. But the 2 that I read for the Mighty 9 Origins are Ford and Not the Brave. So, again, if you've watched Critical Role, these are the origin stories of the Mighty 9 characters from Campaign 2. Some stuff got revealed throughout the campaign. Other stuff was just talked ever so slightly about, but these flush out what happened and how the Mighty 9 got to the point where they were at the very beginning. So, if you want to just read them, their origin story-wise, they will have a little bit of spoilers for what happened in Campaign 2. Now, one that won't really have too many spoilers and is a pretty good world-building, sorry about the mic, world-building comic for Critical Role in general, but specifically Campaign 2 when they get introduced, and that is the Tales of Exandria, the Bright Queen. So this is a comic that is from the point of view of the Bright Queen and her, what is it called? Partner. There we go. Oh man, I don't know how to pronounce these names, but she is Lias Kryn, and there's her partner, Kuana, or I think, I don't know how to pronounce her name, unfortunately, but yeah. So essentially, lore-wise, in Critical Role, there is a kingdom called the Kryn Dynasty, and which believes in this entity called the Luxon, that have these beacons that you can find in the world, which if they tie their souls to, they get reborn into a new body, as long as that person, that new body is born within a certain radius of the beacon. So it is just essentially telling a what is it called? a story that doesn't pertain to any of the Mighty Nine, but it does give you a better sense of why the Bright Queen has some feelings in certain actions that happen throughout Campaign 2. So, if you want to read this, it won't give you any spoilers for Campaign 2 or Critical Role in general. It will just give you a better understanding of the character of the Bright Queen and her, partner for eternity. Because, yeah. But those were the 3 comics that I read, and again, they were all Critical Role, so I know what I like. On to what I finished. Alright, now on to the finished series, not counting the comics because they were finished. As a result, I'm only going to be talking about the manga that I finished in this section. So, on to the first one. Most of them, before I begin on saying what I thought about all of them in general, but the majority of them were somewhat short. Only one of them was long, and you'll know right away which one of them is. But most of them, the second longest one was 5, and the shortest one was 1. So there's that. And only one of them was longer than that, and you'll find out real soon. But getting on to the first of the series, 5 of them, that I finished in July, and that would be The Wolf Never Sleeps. This one is only 3 volumes, and I legitimately thought it was going to be longer. Quite literally, I thought while reading the first 2 volumes, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a longer series. And then I picked up volume 3 and said final. So I was like, wait a minute, what? So, The Wolf That Never Sleeps is essentially a story in which this guy, which is named Lycan, he is from a world that you go into dungeons and you explore and stuff. And every so often, there is a certain type of portal that opens up that sucks you into a different world. And as a result, you get more stuff, and it's a little bit weird and strange, and yeah. But the first 2 volumes is him exploring and trying to figure out the world while essentially adapting to this new world, while figuring out, like, what's the differences that are now in play. And quite literally, this could go on a lot longer than it did. Like, if they wanted to, at any point, they could pick it back up and start doing it, because at the end of the 3rd volume, they have a little time jump of 6 months, and they go out on another adventure, him and 2 other characters that I feel like could have been a very interesting story that could have been told. But 3 volumes, what you get is a little bit of an interesting world that you would want more of, and an interesting protagonist that's quiet but is always willing to learn. He isn't like, oh, I'm a badass. He quite literally understands that he needs to learn about the world and also adapt to the new one that he's in. So, all in all, wish that it was longer. Quite literally, I wish that this was a longer series, but where it stopped, it didn't feel like rushed. It felt like they just stopped it. And it wasn't at a weird point. Like, they obviously felt like they could have continued on. So maybe, hopefully, I don't know, but for a 3 series, it wasn't too bad, and it didn't feel rushed at all. Alright, on to one that I have mixed feelings about. And this is one that I read a little bit when I was younger, but not enough to be like, oh man, this is great. It was mostly like a chapter or 2 in Shonen Jump, so you understand what kind of series I'm talking about. And that is Shaman King. Shaman King is 35 volumes long, and I think you could try to find the singles, but the omnibuses are pretty easy to find right now. I don't know about in the future, but right now they're the easiest. But Shaman King as a whole, I liked parts of it, but by the end, I just felt like there was no real, like, it didn't feel like there was any real conclusion. Like, the characters talked their way out of a shonen battle manga, and that felt weird. I'm like, sure, you can do that, but for majority of it, it just felt like you could just fight and fight and fight. And maybe I'm just thinking about it in the wrong kind of way, because by the end, people die left and right, but they get brought back left and right. Like, death didn't really feel like much of a hindrance after a certain point, and it just felt like, you know, whatever, we died. And then also, fights didn't feel that climactic, and it didn't feel like much of a fight. It just happened, and a few panels and like a chapter, and certain characters I felt like could have had more brought out of their powers, and it just felt weird after a certain point, especially after characters could start coming back to life and there wasn't really any fear of death, and it just felt meh. Like, I liked the beginning part, and I liked the world building of it, and using the different mythologies and religions of the world to build a system of magic where each of the different religions and stuff are real because people believe them to be real. And it just felt meh by the end. I don't know if the sequel will do any better. I have it. It was briefly shown at the very end, and the kid on the back is technically, Yo's son. So, yeah, it just felt meh. I wish that was better, but it just didn't feel like a good story, and I'm sad about this. But if you liked your characters talking it out, here it is, because it didn't really feel like there was any stakes to it, even though you knew what was going to happen by the end. Like, okay, it just didn't feel as good as other shonen endings, or hell, even shonen battles, because fights in this didn't really matter. But yeah, it was really meh. But I'm happy that I read one of the series that a lot of people enjoyed. I personally just didn't like it. So from there, we have a one-shot, one singular volume, and it is from the mangaka of Beastars. Yep, she writes very interesting stories, and that is Drip Drip. I can't show you anything in the volume because I can't even show you the back, but essentially, Mako Higari is, I think, how you pronounce her name. Her mother fucking abused her. Like, so her dad cheated on her mom, and then her mom was like, he's filthy, everything's filthy, and really drove it into her head that men were filthy and they were always going to betray you. And as an adult, she was like, I just want to fuck. But every time I do that, I just, like, blood spews from my nose. And it is weird. And yeah, it's just her trying to find love and fuck. But yeah, it's a really short one. It's not going to be any crazy. I'm not going to spoil it. It's only $12.99, so if you want to pick it up and you're interested and you liked Beastars, the weirdness from Beastars is ramped up in this one. There's also a one-shot featuring Santa Claus and a Lady of the Night. So that's weird, but a wholesome story. Weird. Anyways, it's weird. That's all I can say. So, yeah. Oh, on to the next one, which is a pretty ecchi story for the most part. It's only 3 volumes, and I double checked, but at the very end, it did say like, "Hey, this is the final volume." I can't show you that page because on the next page, there's not much I can like. Boobies. So, The Girl in the Arcade. This is only 3 volumes. Takes place mostly in an arcade where this guy works there, and then this girl shows up one day, and and she is just really into arcade games and trying to winning prizes of a specific like catfish type thing. And then 2 other girls show up, and they all apparently like this one plain Jane dude. That's it. It's essentially them just playing arcade games and them falling in love with him because he's a nice guy, which I don't know if that says anything about society or what have you, but it's weird that a lot of these stories are just like, man, he's great. He was nice. I'm like, does he have any other qualities? They're like, he was nice. I'm like, is he good at taxes? And they're like, nice. I'm like, okay. But anyways, by the end of volume 3, all of them have confessed their feelings, and then randomly they decided that the best way to figure out who he's going to choose is through a crane game, and a human crane game with him lowering down and him then choosing the girl that he's going to like, which I think based solely off of the fact like the most screen time was shown to her, she probably was selected, because the other 2, the third one showed up halfway through the second volume, and the second one showed up halfway through the first volume, and it just felt like she was going to be chosen because she was on all 3 of the covers and she had the most screen time. And like, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but yeah, just felt like that was going to happen. So that's it. It wasn't a deep story. It wasn't a complicated story. It was a story. It was one. So on to the last series that I finished, and one that I liked a little bit more than a few of the others, and that was Blackguard. Blackguard was a lot gayer than I thought. So, no, quite literally, there was a lot more LGBT representation in Blackguard, and yeah, it also, I didn't really think it was going to be in a story that took place in a post-apocalyptic future where aliens invaded and slowly turned everyone into the aliens, and there was it was a weird story, but an interesting story, and I felt a little bit like the last volume was a little bit rushed, and it could have done a little, gotten in the oven a little bit more, and certain characters died that I didn't feel like needed to die, and yeah, all in all, solid series. Art was pretty good, and a lot of questions were being asked, and I feel like not really much of them were being answered, but at the end of the day, I don't know how I really feel about this. It was pretty good start, and then after, I want to say a little bit after volume, like the later half of volume 4, it started feeling a little bit like, this is weird, and how they're going to end it. And it didn't really have a good conclusion, but overall, I liked what was being talked about and the different I forgot how to say that word. Implications. That's not how you pronounce that word. Why do you have this happens all the fucking time where I forget how to pronounce a word. Anyways, it was pretty good, like I said, but yeah, I wish there was certain other plot points that were delved into. And yeah, I wished everyone had a happy ending, which we didn't really get to see. So, But yeah, all in all, it was 5 volumes, so nothing too crazy, and it had a better story than Shaman King. I said it. So these were the 5 manga that I finished. Like I said at the very beginning, the 8 finished series encountered the 3 comics that were also finished in that time. So, on to the very short list of new series that I started, which isn't a lot. Meh. Alright. On to the series that I started in July, and there's only 2. So, let's just get on with it. First one is Wand Dance, which is a pretty interesting story that I've not really come across something similar. And that is essentially the main character, him, who is Kenobi Katana. No, not Katana. Kotani? I don't know. I'm terrible at these names. He has a speech impediment. He stutters. And he doesn't really get along well in most situations because of his speech impediment, and he has a hard time communicating, obviously, but also expressing himself in feelings wise. But one day he meets a girl who is Hikari Wada, who essentially shows him the world of dance, and I think that's pretty cool. And then essentially he joins the dance club that is at his school, and essentially throws himself into dancing, and it's pretty interesting. Like, he's expressing himself better, and he doesn't really need to talk to express himself. So he finally has an outlet, and all in all, I really like it. There's a lot of characters in this, because of course there are, but you know, so far with volume 1, I really enjoyed it, and I think I already have volume 2, so yeah, really solid. Not really much to talk about. The choreography of the dances are pretty interesting as well, and they do explain it quite well for the dance moves, but also, like, look at this. You feel how they are going through the dance motions, here, though that they are not in motion, they are static images, and you just really feel how they are going through it. So, all in all, really good conveyance of motion, as well as, you know, expressing yourself. So, yeah, all in all, pretty good. And yeah, I'll continue reading it. Alright, on to the last one that I started, because there's only 2, and I already have volumes 2 and 3, which means that's a finished series, but I haven't got around to reading it. And I don't know when I'll be able to get around to finishing it. I'm gonna mispronounce this, and well, let's just get on with it. The series is Aishamon, I think is how you pronounce it. It is a very interesting series for the most part. Essentially, yokai rule the underworld in a specific part of Tokyo, and this one leader of the Emma Syndicate dies and leaves a power vacuum. All of a sudden, all these different yokais are trying to become the greater, like the next leader of the syndicate and become head honcho. And you be like, yeah, that sounds cool. Then you have this kid, him, Moro. Moro just wants to be a manga action hero and trains himself to be that, to the point where he beats everyone easily and is fighting yokai with just his fists and beating them, and he's having a fucking blast. And, you know, he was depressed at the beginning, and then she showed up, who is damn, they don't say her name at the back of it. Urahara, I think. Urahara shows up and is like, hey, do you want to join my gang? And he's like, fuck yeah, I do if I get to keep on beating up fucks like that. And that's essentially how this story begins. And again, I don't know how it's going to end with it only being 3 volumes, so hopefully they don't drop the ball. But I don't know. They may drop the ball. They might. Or they might land it. So, yeah. These are the 2 series that I have started in the month of July. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm just going to walk off screen and then talk about the finishing ending of the video. Goodbye. Alright. That was it. That's all that I read. Well, obviously not all. I'm not going to go every single one. That would be a little too crazy, and I don't want to record for hours. So, hopefully you enjoyed July. Hopefully you stayed cool in July. It was fucking hot here, and still is hot. Hopefully you stayed inside and read manga. Unfortunately, I work in a warehouse and cannot. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, think about hitting the like button. If you want to see more of this bearded face, think about hitting the subscribe button. If you want me to read a manga that you're interested, or if you want to talk about what you read in July, put it down in the comments down below. I'll read it. I got nothing much else going on. So, I don't know. Hopefully you had a lovely July. Hopefully your August is going to be just as good. And hopefully it cools the fuck down. Oh, I can't wait until fucking winter. Oh. That's it. And bye. Oh, wait. Stay safe. Read some manga. Stay cool out there. And bye.